Hello everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is July the 11th, 2024. Kind of hard to keep track of the date in the summer for some reason. It's turning humid here again, but in the house it was cool, and that's why I put on my reading shawl. When I come downstairs, it's always cooler. So, welcome to everybody, both new viewers and returning viewers. I'm always happy to have all of you. Excuse me. And I certainly enjoy hearing from you. If you are new, I hope you enjoy what you see and press that subscribe button and come back and see what else is going on here. This is the month of Christmas in July. I'm having a little problem putting my thoughts together today. Don't know why that is. And for those that are new, I'm coming to you from Chatham, Ontario, which is the southernmost tip of Ontario and Canada. I'm not too sure where I want to start today. As I said, I am wearing my reading shawl, which is my very favorite shawl. I have lots of things to show you today, so we'll see how long all of that takes us. And I did get quite a few questions in the last episode, and if all goes well, I hope I will have time to answer some of the questions. I'm thinking that I might split them over the next few weeks of the month to do that, as well as our Christmas in July. So where am I going to start? Well, I guess I should start with finished objects. The first one I won't spend long on. I got one more square done of my, what I'm calling my sample squares. These are the squares I'm actually going to use. So that makes 5 that I have done for the summer cow. And you will get another tutorial at the end of this video. So one finished item, that makes 5 of the 6 done. And I also made this. And I will take some pictures and post on, I'll post them on Instagram. This is called the Delta Vega scarf. And it's kind of unusual. I've never done anything quite the way this is. And I have to say, I don't think it lays the way I would like it to, but you know, when you're wearing it, I'm sure it's going to be doing a lot of moving around. There is this piece on either side that should be poking out to the front, and it isn't. Very unusual construction. It isn't something that I would likely make again. That's the seam where I joined the 2 ends. It is big enough, just big enough for a cowl. As I said, it's called the Delta Vega scarf, and it is a pattern by Reggie at J Hook Crochet, and it is available on Etsy, and I will put a link in the description box below to this pattern. I used one ball of Dewy DK yarn from Expression Fiber Arts, and I believe it has 250 yards, and I had that much left over. You have to make the rows in pairs. I would have gotten one row, the forward pass maybe, but not the backwards. So that's all I had left over. It wasn't enough to go any further than I did. I don't know the color name because it was an oopsie skein. But I said that I would do, excuse me, I said I would do a review on this yarn because I like to review the various yarns from EFA. This is a DK weight, and it is something like 70% merino, 20% nylon, and 10% silk. I'm pretty sure I have the percentages correct. And I have never used this before. I have some. I don't have a lot. I probably have maybe half a dozen more skeins. And if I were using DK, I would use more of this. I don't do a lot of DK, but I definitely am glad I use this because you can feel the silk in this. It's not splitty. It's really heavenly soft. It feels good. I have not blocked this, and I don't think I'm going to block it. And I would highly recommend, if you like working with DK weights, I don't use DK a lot, but I'm definitely going to find projects to use the other Dewey DK that I have, because I would rate that right up there, especially with that extra silky feeling. And this is not one of the expensive yarns at EFA. It's actually quite reasonably priced. So has a bit of changing of color there, tonality, and I don't know what color you'd call it, dusty. There's not even a pinky color, it's taupey. Anyway, very, very nice yarn. I would highly recommend it. And I used a 5.0 millimeter hook. Worked perfect with it. I really, really liked it. So that is really the one finished object that I have this week. I got started last night, day before, on my July mal item. And I meant to bring it to show you the beginning, but I don't always remember to bring things down with me. The one thing I will say is I could not find the pattern I wanted for it. I couldn't find a pattern similar to it that made me happy. So in the end, I found a shawl pattern that I really like, and I got started on. I'm still only on the first color. I'm starting with the blues at the top, and I'll work down to the greens at the bottom. I'm going to put a picture up here. I was able to find a picture of when I got this set of minis, and I think the picture I'm showing shows the entire 24 mini skeins. I only have 10 of them left. I know I used at least a dozen in another shawl earlier, but I'm using the blue-green end of the minis that you see in that picture because I think the picture I have shows all 24. So enough about that. I'm busy gabbing about things that you don't need to hear about. Another thing I wanted to show you was I did show you this a while back, that I got this as a free prize from Needles at the Ready. And I'm not an amigurumi person, but I really want to thank Wendy, who reached out to me and said that she would be more than happy to make this for me. And that is what happened. I sent it to her. Isn't that cute? And it comes apart. This is attached, and then the next ring comes off, and the next ring comes off, and this is all attached as well. So I will be giving this to my great nephew. Hopefully they should make that taller, because this doesn't hold on real well. But anyhow, I will be giving it to my great nephew. Hopefully I will see him later this summer. If not, I'll give it to him at Christmas time. But thank you, Wendy, very much. It got to me safely. I should have emailed you and I forgot. I can hardly wait to give it to him. So that's my one thing to show you, and there goes the head flying. I think I'll just set it aside for now. I also have some yarn to show you. I mentioned last week that I would be getting my June subscription from Sweet Georgia Yarn, and here it is. This is my 4th time getting their monthly subscription, and like always, it opens up and has this information with it. Every month is a different color and a different yarn base, and they are saying, they talk about the color. This yarn is Sweet Georgia Yarn's Trifecta Fine. It has 425 yards in it. It's 75% untreated BFL and 15% mohair and 10% silk. And here is the yarn. There's an awful lot of information, and I'm not going to take the time to read all of that to you. Here is the package. You have a choice of 1 or 2 skeins of yarn, and I get 2 just to make it worthwhile. Honestly, the 2 look different. That's interesting. I got this Progress Keeper stitch marker. It's a B. And then I got the 2 skeins of yarn. Now, on the one side, oh, okay, I see why it looks different. Although this one still looks more brown or more golden than the other one does. See, this one has more green in it, and this one has more goldy in it. Now, it says it has silk and what was the other? I know it's got BFL. 15 mohair and 10% silk. It isn't overly, there's a little bit of halo, but not a lot. I have to tell you, there is no silk feeling to it, to me. It is sort of a medium in softness. Definitely not. I've never found BFL to be overly soft. One time I got some that was, but generally it isn't. So this is only, I don't know, maybe 2.5 on a scale out of 5 for softness. It's nice yarn. It feels okay. It's not scratchy, but it doesn't feel particularly special. And I mean, it is a lovely honeyed color. It's called Haystacks. That's the name of it, Haystacks. And it definitely reminds me of sort of a haystack color. It's not my favorite color, as you can imagine. And I have come to the decision that I'm going to probably discontinue this monthly subscription. It's just not appealing a great deal to me. Now, I also got my other monthly subscription. I only have 2, and the other one is from Color of My Fiber. And I've been getting that since December, and there is the tag, Color of My Fiber. They're in Quebec somewhere, and you know, I ordered this on the weekend, I'm pretty sure. very late last week. It got sent on the weekend and it arrived Monday. Like, this comes really fast. And they did not have, I've sort of centered on the version with silk in it. I've been buying the merino cashmere silk base, and she didn't have that choice this month. I have to guess that she ran out of that base. So I did the next best thing, and I got merino cashmere nylon, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. And here is the yarn. I always do like a nice pink and gray. This is quite dark, a very charcoaly color, and I quite like this color. I haven't yet had a color that I didn't like from Color of My Fibers, Barbara, that dyes it up. And we haven't had blue yet, or purple, but yet I have liked every one she has sent. And I will link her down below. She's worth going on. She has an Etsy shop, and it's worth going and looking through her shop. She has over 500 listings, so she has a lot of choice of color. And I am really quite happy with this. I have another pink and gray from another dyer, and I want to get busy at using some of them. This is really pretty. But I am thinking that, I need to cut back on the yarn, because you won't see it today, but this past weekend, as you see, I got the little bunny delivered to me because my brother and his wife came for a visit and brought that. And they brought the winter supply of EFA that I ordered. And I think maybe next week might be a good week to show you all my EFA yarn that I ordered over the winter. It's a bit much. I will only show single strands. This has come off, and I don't want to lose the color. What is the color, by the way? The Chapel. It's called the Chapel. So there we have. So that's my other yarn subscription, and I will continue to get this particular yarn subscription. And as usual, she sends some tea and other little goodies with it. So we'll put that aside for now. And when I was on Etsy, I was, browsing through Etsy because I still have one more advent calendar to order, and I was checking things out, and of course I came across some yarn that I really didn't need, but one really appealed to me, so I decided that I wanted to get a second one. I do that to make the shipping worthwhile. Now, mind you, the shipping wasn't that much, $7 flat rate for 2 skeins of yarn. That's pretty good. And as you know, I am a blue lover. Now, the name of this, Hamster Yarns CA. Hamster Yarns CA. They are on Etsy, and they came from Calgary, Alberta. I try wherever possible to stay Canadian. So you're going to know that I love these blue colors. I think it would be really nice with a denim. These are both, it just says Merino Superwash. So I guess it's 100% Superwash Merino. And I love the shades of blue in that. The one that really caught my attention was this one. The mixture of the teals and pinks. I really like that too. Now, these are fingering weight. Softness factor is average. So maybe a 3, maybe a little bit better, but it's not overly soft. It feels nice, definitely feels nice, and I love those colors. I wonder if I would put them all together. No, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. So that is an acquisition I made this past week. And I'm really happy with the colors in that. They both look really nice. So add them to my collection and we'll see when I get around to using them. Now, we don't have a lot of time. Oh, you know what? We have to do the most important thing before I move on. This is, I don't know how I can forget, but this is Christmas in July. So of course you're all here waiting to see my opening of the Advent calendar. So just as a quick recap, I found a board to put, and these are the 3 colors in the order that I got them last week. So now we're going to open the next 3. Here we have number 4. And this one is not going to slide off. So we have to undo the button, the bow. I've been having trouble with my words lately, I'll tell you. And here we go. Now, any guesses as to what color might come next after this? I suspect this is going to be some type of fade. So, here we go. Oh, yeah. See, it's still working along in this color spectrum. This is a brighter, sort of rusty color. Yes, I see this continuing. I just feel like something about these colors are sort of, they make me think of fall. And I think when I'm all done, I'm going to have 20 grams. I'm going to make like a bias scarf or something like that with these. I don't want to leave them just sitting as number 5. So often in the past, I've gotten my Advent calendars and then they're still sitting here a year and a half later. So I really want to get on to it, do something with it soon. So here's number 5. What color next? Something brown maybe? Oh, now, you know how I feel about that color. Put this on the board. It is a very rich, kind of sunny yellow. Definitely goes with these, but I'm as likely as not to just not use that one. And then number 6. So we're halfway through our Advent, number 6. And again, that one has to be untied. I have all this confetti in there. And there's number 6. And we're going to open that. Maybe brown or green. Brown would be nice. Oh, a goldy color. Now this color I like better. I could deal with this color. And it definitely follows from the last one. So there are the 6 so far. We're definitely working a gradient. Very nice. They look good together. So that's the latest installment of Christmas in July. And we will be back next week to proceed further on that. So I say we have maybe 5 or 6 minutes where I can answer a few of the questions that I was asked. And then we will do a few more next week. That's the 18th and the 25th 3 weeks, might finish it. I do have a page and a half of questions. So I'll start with an easy one. I hope the people that asked are watching so they get their answers. The very first question at the top of the page was, do I have a favorite stitch? What is it if I do? I found that a little hard to answer. Now, the tutorial you're going to get at the end of this video is one of my favorite stitches. I'm not going to say, it doesn't really have a name, but you'll see it at the end of the video. But a stitch that I like to use a lot, so I might call it a favorite stitch, is the moss stitch. I have done, I've done a lot of baby stitches in the big baby blanket yarn, Bernat blanket, baby blanket, and I often use the moss stitch on that. I have done one shawl with the moss stitch. I would, enjoy doing a scarf in the moss stitch. I find it very cozy. I made a poncho with squares, and all the squares were done in moss stitch. I also did a cocoon cardigan in a moss stitch. The person absolutely loves it. So I guess I might say the moss stitch is my favorite. Question about teaching. Most of you that have been with me a little while have heard me comment or refer to teaching. Some of you, without my ever saying anything, said, I think you're a teacher, Judy. Were you a teacher in a former life? And yes, it turns out that I end up teaching wherever I go. I actually have a math degree. So in our province, I'm not too sure if it's the same across Canada, but in our province, a teacher has to be qualified in 2 areas or 2 subjects. Now, if you're in elementary school, the areas are like primary, intermediate, whatever, different grade levels. But in high school, and I taught high school, you have to have 2 teachable subjects. Obviously, having a math degree, math was my first teachable, but I also am qualified in guidance. I took kind of a minor in psychology. So I was a math teacher and a guidance counselor. I was full-time math for a while, then I was transferred to Chatham where I was pretty much full-time guidance for a while, and then slowly, they throw in some English whenever they feel like it. You don't get the same thing every year. They look at the whole school and try to cover the school with the teachers they have, and you never for sure what you're going to get. And even if I did get full-time math, it wouldn't necessarily be the same math course every year. So I've taught from grade 9 right up to grade 12. I have taught academic as well as what we call general level, which is preparing for college rather than university. So I've taught pretty much all the different math levels. I haven't taught calculus, no interest in that. But yes, I was a math teacher and a guidance counselor. What else? The next question I have here, and it's the only truly personal one, where did I meet my husband and where did I go on honeymoon? The person that asked says they're always interested in this kind of question. So at the end of 3 years of university, between my 3rd year and my 4th year, I got a job here in town at a company called Rockwell International. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was here in Canada, but I believe it has totally gone to the US. I know at the time shortly after I was there, some of the managers went down to Texas, and they are involved. I mean, they did automotive things. That's why they were in Chatham, but they were involved in the space program as well. and I got a summer job there, the best summer job I ever got at Rockwell. And my husband was working there. He wasn't my husband at the time, of course, but he was working there full time. Had come to Chatham from Toronto to take this job, although he grew up in Chatham. And so I met him that summer, and long distance relationship while I was away at school for a year, and then came back, started to work here. Of course, I looked for work here because he was here, and we got married at Christmas. Those of you that know me will get the point here. We were married December the 23rd. Partly because of me and partly because of that's when school vacations are. And of course, we didn't head out right away. We stayed home for Christmas and we left after the Christmas day. And we spent our honeymoon in Las Vegas. And if that isn't the party capital of the world, we got to spend New Year's Eve in Las Vegas. I had one disappointment with that. I am an Elvis fan, and Elvis was still alive when I got married in 1975. And I was so disappointed because, you know, he plays Vegas. Well, we went to Vegas, and Elvis, while we were away, was in Detroit playing there. I could have done an hour drive from home and got to see Elvis perform. And I never did, which was the disappointment of my honeymoon, missing out on seeing Elvis. But it was pretty interesting to be in Vegas. It actually snowed just a wee bit one evening in Vegas. We actually saw the show put on by Paul Anka, and he is a Canadian. So that was pretty special. So yes, that's where I went. And I'll answer one more question, one that isn't a long question because we're already longer than I want. Advents. Somebody asked which Advents have I ordered, and what are the favorite ones in the past, and projects that I have made from Advents. Well, I haven't finished purchasing my Advents for this Christmas yet. I have two, and I intend to get a third one. So the two I have are Polka Dot Creek. No special reason. They had them already on offer in April, and they had a discount if you got it in the month of April. And as you know, I'm sticking with Canadian. So I got Polka Dot Creek's Advent. And the other one I got, and I had a reason for it, I got the Advent from Ba Realis. Those of you that were with me last Christmas will remember that I had an Advent from Ba Realis, and it was the one that was sparkle. It didn't have a theme or a color gradient. It just had various random colors. She tried to do half of it that were a little softer or more faded, and one that half of them that were brighter. I didn't quite see a lot of difference, but I just know that I enjoyed every single one of them. Beautiful colors. It sparkled, which is my thing. And she's doing the same thing again this year, and I have a reason for wanting to get it again. Will not be the same colors, will be different. But when Advent gets here, I'll explain what I do have a project in mind to put the two of them to use. I'll tell you about it when we get to the Advent season. I haven't decided on the third. I am having a hard time deciding. There are a couple of different ones. I am not going to get Yarn Unique this year. I've had them the last 2 years. They are not Canadian. And the two I am looking at are both Canadian. In fact, I'm kind of looking at a third one, but I think I'll leave it for others. I'm pretty sure what I'm going to decide on, but I'm waiting to see if anything else comes out that really sparks my interest before the end of the summer. But within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think I have to make a decision. And what are my favorite ones in the past? Well, I think one of my favorite ones was from not last year. I think it was the year before. I think it was maybe my first time getting an Advent, which would have been in 21. I got the Advent calendar from Reggie at J Hook Crochet. She collaborated with somebody else who did the dyeing. She designed the pattern, and they put their efforts together, and it was a sparkle one. It had 2 different color sections, and the first part of it was, peachy, pinky, into orangey, and even yellows. And I made Reggie's pattern, which was masquerade. Was it just masquerade? If I can find a picture of the project, I will put it up here. But as you know, I am very slow to get around to using my Advent calendars. I mean, here's this one up here, and the other half that's on the other board that I took down is in a bag. So I haven't used this one at all. And that, I have to say, is one of my favorite Advents, just because this half, I love the colors, and it has silk in it. It's a merino silk combination, and I love it. But I'm trying to find the perfect pattern, and I can't find the perfect pattern. So it's going to be a nice decoration for a little while longer. So I haven't made very many projects from my Advent calendars, but I intend to start using them. So I think that will end the questions. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that'll split into 2 more weeks. And a couple of them are long answers. I'll warn you of that. So that they will wait for the next 2 weeks at least. So that brings us to the end of today's meeting, today's video. You still have the tutorial to watch, so please don't go away. I hope you like this one. I've gotten comments that people have really enjoyed the last couple, so I'm really glad. I thought these would be stitches that everybody would know, and it turns out they don't, although I'm almost sure a number of you will know a variation of today's tutorial. So I hope you stick around to see it, and I hope you like it. And I also hope you'll be back next week for the next tutorial and more questions. And of course, my great big haul from EFA. That's next week. So until then, happy hooking. Today we're going to do a stitch that I call the double cross stitch. Now, I don't really think it has a name. It resembles the cross stitch. Some of you may be familiar with it, but it is a modification of that. And I have seen another modification that's a little different than mine, and they call it the crossover stitch. I'm not sure there is an actual name for this, but it does resemble the cross stitch. But because there are extra double crochets in here, I call it the double cross stitch. And this is what it looks like. It makes an open weave, much like the last one we looked at. I don't find it difficult to do at all. I wouldn't make a baby blanket out of it, again, because of the holes, although some people feel quite comfortable doing that. I would make a regular blanket. I would definitely make a scarf. I have even used this stitch in a shawl where I was making a modification to one of the rows. You, of course, have to be conscious of the stitch count that you need for this particular pattern. So let's get started. This can be made to any size, but of course you have to be careful of the stitch count. Now I'm not going to repeat everything that I did in the last video. This requires a starting chain and a first row with single crochets. And I have already started it. And I wanted to show you something else I have not mentioned until this point. Now this pattern requires that when you get your single row of crochets, that row must have a multiple of 3 plus 2. But of course you need an extra stitch in the chain to be able to do a turning chain and then have the number you want. Now sometimes that gets confusing, and what I suggest is just do a chain. Make a long chain, longer than you actually need for what you're going to make, and then start doing your single crochets, working back, which I have done, and work in, as I said, I'm working in the back bumps. And when you get near the end, count your stitches, and here's where I have to have a multiple of 3 plus 2. So there's the turning chain. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. I need one more to make my multiple of 3. And then I need, it's very sticky here today, and then I need 2 more. Well, I have more than 2, but that's okay. I'm just going to do 2 more so that I have a multiple of 3 plus 2. 1, 2. And there are extra stitches in my chain, but that doesn't really matter because I can take this part out back to here when I'm finished my work, and that's my tail that I'll weave in. So doing extra actually makes it easy rather than worrying about how many chains you actually have to do. Now, the next row, we're going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3, and this counts as our very first stitch. So this stitch is above that last stitch in the previous row. To make this stitch, we skip the first one and we go and do a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to do, oops, I didn't get the whole stitch. We're going to do a double crochet in this stitch, and then we're going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. So this is a slight alteration from what you're used to doing for a cross stitch, because now we're going to finish it the way a cross stitch is done, for those of you that know how to do it. But for those that don't, what we're going to do is we're going to start the double crochet, and we're going to double crochet in the missed stitch. So I'm going to cross in front of these stitches and go in and gather up my yarn and pull it up even with your other stitches, and then finish your double crochet. If you don't pull it up enough, the cross ends up being kind of low and you don't see it. So continuing on, we're going to skip this stitch and do a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Once we've done those 2, we have to do a double crochet by crossing over into the missed stitch. It can be a bit awkward. And pull up a loop nice and high, and then finish your double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Skip there. Be careful to see the right stitch. There's where we finish. So skip that one and go into this one. And do another one. You have to do 2. Then yarn over and do your double crochet by crossing over to the missed stitch. Grab the yarn at the back and pull it up a decent height, and then make your double crochet. And there you have crossed again. If you don't pull it too high, it gets a little too low. That one I should have pulled a little bit better. And we have room for one more. There's your last stitch, so skip that one and go in the next 2. Do a double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Go in the next one, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then do your double crochet by crossing over, going to the missed stitch back here. Go through, pull up your yarn, pull it up nice and tall, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We can hear a kitty here wanting some attention. And then we finish the row, and it will be into a chain, that turning chain. We do another crochet, and that's why we need a multiple of 3, because it takes 3 for the stitch plus 2 for beginning and end the row has a cross stitch, a double crochet. So that's what the first row will look like. So you can see how the first row of this looks. This, again, like the last one, is a 2-row pattern. Now, a lot of people do it without the second row. You could turn around and do a chain of 3 and build right on top of this row. That is perfectly fine, and that's what some people do. But personally, if I'm using this stitch, I find it's just not as sturdy to build on top of this. So my preference is to do a row of single crochets. So we're going to chain 1, turn it, and go right back into the very first stitch, and we're going to do a row of single crochets going across, just like we did in the triad stitch. Now I'm going to try and rest my arms on the table and see if I can't keep things a little more right in front without moving all over the place. So we get a row of single crochets, which is going to take just a minute here. And again, I want to remind you that I can't keep from wiggling all over the place. Are most of you able to keep your hands fairly static, or or are your hands moving around like mine? Like, I don't just use my right hand. My left hand gets involved in the action as well. Okay, so there's the last part of the cross stitch down below. I don't see. And then we have to remember that we're finishing it out by going in that third chain. This is a chain 3, the turning chain, and we have to go in that chain. So again, I advise you, don't make your chain stitches too tight. So there is the final single crochet. And there is another good reason for doing it this way. I don't know if you can tell, but this is our front side and it crosses in this direction. But on the back side, it crosses in the opposite direction. And if you were building one row right on top of the next row, you would have your cross stitches crossing in opposite directions every row. Whereas putting in the row of single crochets and turning and building on it, we are going to do our row of cross stitches in the same direction the last row was done. So again, this is the first stitch, that's the chain. We're going to skip this and go into this one. Do a double crochet, 2 in a row, 2 double crochets. Then we're going to do our double crochet back into the missed stitch. So in there you go, catch your yarn on the back and then bring it up. Bring it up even with the others and then make your double crochet. Whoops. It just does not want to work today. I find this Lion Brand ice cream, you know, it's sort of like mandala as well, or mandala, whatever you call it. I find it doesn't slide nicely on the hook. It's like kind of sticky almost, you might say. Okay, we skipped one, and now we are busy making 2 double crochets in a row, and then we are going to cross back to the one we skipped. Whoops, I missed the stitch altogether. Go into the stitch, grab the yarn and pull it up. Don't be afraid to pull it up even with the others. And then do your double crochet. And again, we skip this stitch and go in the next. Do a double crochet and then another double crochet. Again, this is not a difficult stitch. If you know how to double crochet, that's all this really is. But you have to be careful when you are going back to the skipped stitch, cross over. There are other ways to do this, but I've seen some really strange ways to make a double cross stitch that I'm not fond of. This is my way of making them. Again, skip this one, go in here, do a double crochet, and then cross back over to the missed stitch. Pull up your yarn a good height and then finish your double crochet. And then finally, we have 1 stitch left at the end to make a double crochet in. And so when you're finished that row, now this is color changing, this yarn, but you can see they are made in the same way. Whereas if you were not putting that single in between, it would be opposite to this one. There are ways to do it differently, so they are the same, but this is just more straightforward. And it also gives a more solid base to make your cross stitches in. So I call this the double cross stitch because you're crossing two of them. Now you will chain up one and come back across, doing your single crochets, remembering to go into the top of your chain 3. So that's how it is worked. And I actually, this is one of the ones I had made previously, and it was the wrong size. I tore it all out, and I did it again. And here is my finished sample. Now, I'm using a 3 or 4 weight here, whatever ice cream is, and I'm using, I believe, a 5 millimeter hook. So, of course, it's bigger and the holes are bigger. But in this one, I'm using a 2 weight. I'm using Twisted Tweed Sport from Expression Fiber Arts, and I'm using a 4 millimeter hook. So you can see the holes are smaller. Some people would be quite comfortable wearing this in a sweater without worrying about anything underneath it. It is a little tighter, and I have made exactly my 8-inch square. And this is how it looks when you've done a whole section of it, and you can see I have my single crochets between, and all of my crosses are going in the same direction, which is what I like, rather than having one row go this way and the next row go the other way. See, they're crossing this way. So that is what the double cross stitch looks like. And that's my name for it. I'm sure you're not going to find that out there anywhere else. But you will find a similar stitch to this called the crossover stitch. But it has even more double crochets in it than I have. This stitch can be modified in many ways. Like I said, it was a cross stitch where you do 1 and cross. I do 2 and cross. The crossover stitch, I think she was doing 3 of them and crossing. It makes it bigger depending on how many double crochets you want to cross. So that is stitch number 3, the double cross stitch.